My name is Aaliyah Funchal, and I'm a sports reporter, talk show host, and I have my own brand called Sports with Aaliyah. I want this segment to not only empower women in sports at the moment, but also inspire young girls, and I want them to know that no matter what, there is always a spot for them at the table in the industry. So without further ado, welcome to Empower Women in Sports Wednesday. Hello everybody, it's Aaliyah Funchal, and welcome back to another week of Empower Women in Sports Wednesday. Thank you so much for the support on last week's episode. If you missed it, you can go check it out on my channel. It is with former Wichita State basketball player Maya Brewer. So that was the first athlete that I've had on the show so far. And then this week, I'm super excited because our guest today has a job in the industry that I wanted to go into for a while, and I think a lot of people don't really know what all goes into this job. So I'm so excited for you guys to learn more.
Hi, I'm Maddie Heaps, the Media Relations Coordinator at San Diego State University.
I am so excited to have Maddie on today because I love following her on Twitter. She is so outspoken and just always says what's on her mind and always stands up for what is right. So I think that's something that I can really learn from and that you guys can learn from as well. One thing that I ask almost all of my guests is how they first got interested in sports in the first place. There's always so many great answers, but Maddie's really pulled at the heartstrings. She ended up losing her dad, and her dad was the main reason why she got into sports in the first place. So here's an early look into Maddie's love of sports.
So I started, my love affair with sports is kind of how I would put it, when I was really little, about 4 or 5. My sister's 8 years older than me, which is a blessing and a curse all in one. And she was going through a lot of the teenager things, and I was 4 or 5, and I wanted attention. And I knew the only way I could get my dad's undivided attention was while he was watching sports. So he was really big into golf and football and baseball. And ever since 2000, I went to every single opening day at the very many different names, Oracle Park now, but for the San Francisco Giants. So for 18 straight years, we went together. And it just was a love affair, really. I started liking the Patriots because my dad was a Niners fan, and back then they kind of had this weird little rivalry. And he was just fascinated that I could love a team and love the stats and argue with him. And it kind of just started from there. In high school, I worked with all of our men's basketball teams and our men's volleyball team. I created this thing called the manager program. I basically wanted to get out of doing PE. And so by doing this, I got to manage our teams, which was doing all of the stats for them and then going on the road with them, going to every game, helping out in pretty much every capacity with referees, sending in scores, all of that stuff. So I was doing all that for both of our teams in order to get enough credits to graduate with my PE requirement. From there, our assistant athletic director at my high school knew my first boss, Herb Benison, who's at Cal. He's the director of media relations there, assistant athletic director, I believe, probably senior associate athletic. He's a big deal. He knew him, and he was like, hey, I have this girl. She's passionate. You just give her an internship, whatever you can give her. From there, I met Mara Rudolph, and for 4 years, from my first day before classes of my freshman year at Cal to graduation day, I worked in the media relations department at Cal. And I loved every single minute of it. I spent so much time with, I worked for our football teams. I spent most of my time as the secondary tertiary contact for men's and women's basketball. So I got to do that for 4 years, and it was a love affair that had continued on. After that, I explored opportunities for full-time positions and found my niche was probably a GA. So I took my GA position at Eastern Michigan University, and that's a 2-year GA program. So I spent 1 year there as their secondary football contact, and then throughout the year was the swim and dive contact, the rowing contact, and the track and fields contact. Am I missing anything? I think that's it within there. So did all of that, and then after year one, I got the opportunity to come out to San Diego State. I'm from California. I missed home so much. I hated winter, and so it was time to come home. And now I've celebrated a year at San Diego State just a couple weeks ago.
Maddie's answer really resonated with me because my dad is also the person who got me involved in sports, and that's where my love of sports came from. So my heart goes out to her and her family. Later in the interview, you'll hear how her dad ended up helping her become the strong woman that she is today. But first, I want Maddie to tell you guys a little bit about what she does, media relations. I can't even begin to explain what media relations is. There's so much that goes into it. Something that Maddie brought up is that media relations, they do a little bit of everything. So if you're unsure of what side of the industry to go to, try out media relations because you will get your feet wet in so many different aspects of sports.
I think the really cool thing about working in media relations is it's a different job almost every single day. You get to have your hands in a little bit of everything. The biggest thing I think you get to be is a communicator. So that means that you're communicating. You are the middleman for everybody. You are the middleman to get to the media, between your student athletes and the media to your student athletes, officials, referees, all staff, university staff. Like, you get a hand in a little bit of everything, which is awesome. You're getting to touch all of the important things within either your team or your athletic department, depending on what level you're at.
As a sports reporter, I have the utmost respect for media relations. They are literally my lifeline when it comes to Wichita State athletics. They have provided me with so much information. They are my go-to. So media relations personnel, you guys are so appreciated. So let's take a look at what Maddie does and how she does it.
For my main jobs here at San Diego State, I help run our social media accounts, all of them. So that's strategy, posts, creating graphics, such like that. And then I also have a little bit of an administrative side here. So as a coordinator, I run our budget. I work with all of the staff that we have come in, which is like our statistics and other freelancers that we have for photography, etc. So I work with that in the budget, getting them paid, paperwork for traveling, all those things that come with working at a state university because we are publicly funded. So getting through all the paperwork and stuff like that entails. And then typical SID work, sports information director work for 3 sports. So lacrosse, swim and dive, and women's tennis. So that's being at every game, scoring the games, writing the previews, the recaps, the game notes, bios, tweeting, all that good stuff, as well as the other 2. And then my final part of my job is working with credentialing. So I credential all of the media that comes to our football and our men's basketball games. So that's helping set up press row, from the physical setup of press row, so seating charts and where everybody sits and works, and then approving media requests and such that come in from there. So it was a crazy year one, and there was an entire season that didn't even happen, and it was still the craziest year ever. But I get to have my hands in a lot of different things, and I would have never known about this field if it wasn't for my first internship at Cal. And so I'm really grateful, because this isn't something they teach about in high school. I don't feel like it's something they talk about enough, and I hope that it's something that we can talk about a little bit more, and that women know that this is something they can do. And if this isn't something they love, something I described in there is something that you love, and there's an offshoot of that. So if you love, talking with donors, and I do that all the time. I get to meet people that help fund our department, but I'm not the direct person to, get the donations or something like that. And you can work in development, stuff like that. So I think that what media relations does is almost the starting point to all of the different things that you can really do in sports.
So now that you all have heard a little bit about what Maddie does, I really want you to hear what she has to say. This has nothing really to do with her job. It has to do with her entire journey in the industry. She is such an incredible woman and such an inspiration. And when I listen to her, I just sit back and I'm mesmerized, because she just has so much passion and power in her words. You might have seen some of her tweets on Twitter. She has gone viral quite a bit talking about women's rights or Black Lives Matter. She is very passionate. But something I wanted to bring up with her is being outspoken, because it is very hard in this day and age to navigate how you want to use your social media platform. Am I being too much? Am I not saying enough? So she really had to battle with that too. In Maddie's personal life, everyone knew that she was already outgoing and opinionated and outspoken, but it really took a lot of soul searching for her to be able to figure out if she was comfortable enough to put this all on social media or not. It was an internal struggle, but she definitely navigated through it, and she has come out on the other side. She has some great advice and some great insight of how to publicly share your opinion and be respectful about it, and to really uphold your name, but also show what values you stand for.
Yeah, I think I can always say that I've been very extroverted, for sure. Love people, love talking to people, love meeting people. So that has always been there. And I think most people that know me would say that if you really knew me, you knew how opinionated and I would say like in your face with what I believe in. I've always been. I don't know if I've necessarily always had the confidence to back it up. So I think that I could speak a lot. For a long time, I was willing to talk about things like maybe face to face with one or two people. And so a lot of people would know my ideas, but it wasn't on a wider platform like it is now. And I think I was publicly kind of afraid for a very long time to, push out this more assertive, dominant femininity that I like to embrace. I think for a long time I was just pretty much like, well, I just want to be like every other girl, which doesn't exist. But I was like, I want to be this ideal girl, and that girl doesn't, have a ton of opinions and doesn't say this, sometimes say the wrong things. And I think once my dad died in September of 2017, and my life kind of just uprooted itself. Everything I believed in and everything I really thought I knew about the world was just completely turned upside down. And I think I finally decided that I could no longer hate myself for the many different reasons that I did, which were stupid and had held me back for so long. I could no longer do that because my dad didn't want me to be a girl who didn't show the world everything that she was. And I think I missed out on a lot of things when I was younger, believing that, it would be too much if I went for that and went for that and went for that.
As I mentioned earlier, her losing her dad really put things in perspective for her. And even just the thought of that helped me put things in perspective too. She believes that life is too short to not stand up for what is right. You can't let people guess which side you stand on. And she wants to be on the right side of history, and she wants to make her dad proud. I didn't even know her dad, but I know he would be so proud of her. And I'm proud of her too. Just take a look at what she had to say, because she is really the epitome of a strong, independent woman, and I think that we can all take value from what she's sharing.
I obviously wish that many of the things in my life that happened didn't. I would love my dad to be here every single day. But from that experience, I wouldn't say I stopped caring what people think, because I do, and I don't think that that's a realistic ideal to give any woman or any human. But I think I decided that it was more important for me to say the things I believed in and deal with the consequences rather than being silent. That I learned what the benefits outweighed the negatives, and I became strong enough to handle the negatives over time. And I still struggle. Like, please do not get me wrong. Like, especially with some of my most recent viral tweets, whatever you want to call them, I have struggled. I've had to take time away from social. I've had to depend on people in my life to help me get through the feelings and emotions I was dealing with. But I think every single time I grow a little bit stronger and a little bit more resilient. But at the end of the day, right, I think that if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And I was not willing to be a person that you questioned if she supported other women in sports, or questioned if she believed in, racial equality and dismantling systemic racism. And I just wasn't willing for someone to say, well, I don't really think I get what she feels about that. Now I want to be like, no, you should get exactly how I feel on it. And if you don't like that, completely fine. We don't have to be friends. I would respect you for what you do. But this is my thing, this is what I believe in. And I think the way that I do it, if I can toot my own horn a little bit, is shown with a lot of kindness rather than negativity towards people that disagree with me. I think that I've done, in my own opinion, I've done a really good job of being not attacking a person and rather attacking an idea, and trying to change a conversation rather than changing just one person's mind is something I've really tried to work on.
Now for the not so fun part, hearing about some of the things that have happened to Maddie in the sports industry. I never want this show to be a negative thing, but I do think it is so important to hear some of the experiences that other women in the industry have, and more importantly, how they have gotten through it. That is the main point of this show, is that yes, there are things out there that will come at you, that will come for you, but you can get over it. So that's why I really want to touch on the things that do happen in the industry, but also how my guests have overcome it and came out stronger. And Maddie is definitely someone that has came out stronger to everything that she faces. But with all of that being said, there's not necessarily one thing that people can pinpoint that has happened to them in the industry. Some women can point out just one thing that has happened that was huge and life-changing that has happened to them in the industry, but a lot of times there are just small microaggressions that keep building up and up and up, and then it's just to the point where it's like, is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it, and I promise you, if you are facing microaggressions, you will get through it, but that's why we bring attention to what different microaggressions are.
I mean, I've received every microaggression that there humanly possibly could be. The sweeties, the honeys, the, oh, you're so beautiful, it makes sense why you're here. Oh, you obviously aren't skinny enough to be a reporter, that's why you're behind the scenes. Or, I mean, I've gotten every single one of those. I had a donor once ask me, not at my current job, but donor once asked me if I was pregnant because my stomach stuck out a little bit in my dress. And if like I was with my dad, which was at the time one of my bosses, who was just like standing next to me. I've had that. It's always like, oh, who do you know to be here? Like, oh, who's your dad? Who's your brother? Who's the person that got you this position? I've gotten, oh God, every version of those. I don't know if one necessarily sticks out above the others. I think that it's almost like it's the magnitude of them all together that is the bigger issue, rather than just like one attack. And I think that a lot of women feel like, oh, if I don't have that one attack story, it doesn't mean I haven't experienced this. And I can't say, I haven't sat here and said like, they told me specifically no to this or that, but I've gotten all the microaggressions, and I felt every single little thing that has gone along with being a woman in sports. But at the end of the day, my relationships and with the people that I've met in this industry are worth it. And the athletes that are willing to push past the stereotypes and really get to know me and spend time, with my family and telling, that's just, it's worth it. Every single moment of a microaggression, of someone calling me sweetie, and the moments that I've gotten to experience are worth it.
One thing that I'm starting to ask some of my guests is, what's something that you would want to tell to your younger self? I love asking people that question, and I have been asked that question myself as well, and I just think that it gets the most genuine responses, and it makes them emotional, honestly, to think about, wow, what would I tell my younger self? After everything that I've gone through, it's worth it, or whatever it is. So I asked Maddie what she'd want to tell her younger self, and I have chills, just like everything else she said, but it was super sweet, and I loved it.
First thing I would tell her, she's a badass. Like, everybody is going to tell you that you are, I hate using these words, but like, you're bitchy, you're bossy, you're demanding, you're whatever. And like, to all of that, screw it, you're a badass and you can do anything you set your mind to. And that sounds so cheesy. And I want to tell my younger self, like, that cheesy crap is real. You have to tell yourself you can do it. You have to tell yourself you're better than the stereotypes or the things that you've been through. And you just have to believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, no one else will. unless you demand it. And I think that's something that's been really cool over my time in sports, is that I've learned to demand what I need and what I want, and people have thus empowered me and pushed me forward because I've been able to ask for that. And people, I really wish I could tell just any woman that is going through just growing up or trying to figure out who they are. First of all, that's a journey that'll never end. And anybody that tells you that you'll figure it out at 25, you'll figure it out at 45, you'll figure it out at 65, they're lying. Because I've met people every single age that are still trying to figure out exactly who they are. So stop trying to get to the end. There is no end. But I wish I could go back and just say, like, you're a badass. Listen to that cheesy crap. Tell yourself you can do it, and then just go and do it. And I really wish that I wouldn't have. There's so many times that I can think I held back because of the way that I thought that I looked, or the intelligence I thought that I had, or the voice that I thought wasn't strong enough to talk, and the things that I missed out on because I was afraid of how it would look. And I wish I would have allowed myself to fall down more than I did, because I'm so grateful for every time I fell down and got back up. And so I wish I wouldn't have kept myself from experiences that really, could have empowered me even more than I am. And I'm so happy and grateful for where I am now. But I wish I wouldn't have hidden myself away for so long and not showed the world how amazing I am. And I don't think that that's me being overly confident in any sense, but I think that one thing women don't hear enough is you being amazing allows other women to be amazing and allows the spotlight to grow. If you're willing to say, I'm a badass and I'm confident and I can do it and I can do whatever I set my mind to, you're opening up the pathway for the next woman to be able to jump you and do it better than you've ever gotten to do it and have more opportunities. And so I wish I could tell that little girl that she was going to do some crazy things, and she was going to do some horrible things, and she was going to do some amazing things. And through it all, she was a good person, and she was beautiful. And the rest didn't matter. That she was loved, she was beautiful, she has everything she needs inside of herself.
Once again, thank you, Maddie, for coming on the show. Such an inspiration. I am so proud of you for how well you just told your story and all of the advice that you shared. I'm so thankful that we have connected and that you are now in my life and I'm in your life and we're supporting each other's journeys. If you guys want to support Maddie on her journey, definitely go give her a follow. This week's hairstyle is done by Andrea at Eric Fisher Academy. I just wanted something super simple because my outfit was simple today, and something down because I've done ponytails, so she did these beach waves and I'm in love. She did an amazing job and she's so nice. And I found out that her boyfriend is my little brother's band teacher, so small world. But I just love the family over at Eric Fisher Academy, and I'm so excited to show you the different hairstyles every week. So definitely go give them a follow. They are incredible. And last but not least, thank you to every single one of you who watch the show and support me on my journey and support women in sports. We appreciate you so much. So I will see you next Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone.